Okay, if we had been in class the last 2 days, in yesterday's class I would have said, with the exception of the homework questions, that's the end of the unit. When would you like to have a test? And you would have probably picked Thursday or Friday. I bet you never thought you'd be at the point of wishing that you could have a test for me. But there it is. So we're moving to the next unit even without the test. The assignment that I gave you before March break was the assignment for this unit. So luckily you have it and you can use it to work on whenever you want. When is it due? That's a really good question that I don't know yet. But when we're told we're allowed to begin to give you work for real, I will let you know when it's due. But for now, we're moving to the next unit, which is mirrors and lenses, and I think it's a cool unit. It's cool because we have a fair number of toys to play with, which perhaps we'll have to play in our imagination with until then. We're going to start with mirrors and move to lenses, and maybe we'll be back together before this unit is done. We shall see. So the first thing we need to talk about are light rays. And I don't know if you've ever realized it, but our brain always assumes that light's traveling in a straight line. And it assumes that because it doesn't have any reason, I guess, other than to assume that, because light usually does. But when light doesn't travel in a straight line, then we can get tricked. Now, light will always travel in a straight line unless, and the first unless is unless it strikes something, unless it strikes a reflecting surface, like a mirror. And so when you look at yourself in a mirror, your eye, your brain, sees a person on the other side of the mirror. Your brain is assuming light's traveling in a straight line coming right from that person to you. When you're a little kid, you might not realize that that person is you. You might just think that person is a person. And that's why you often see some of the most adorable pictures of like a little baby kissing the baby in the mirror, thinking it's another baby. You also see it with like puppy dogs and kittens and stuff. They think it's another cat or another dog in the mirror. Their brain also is assuming light's traveling in a straight line and doesn't have any idea that what they're really seeing is a reflection. So when light strikes a reflecting surface, an image gets formed. Okay, but I jump ahead of myself because there's a part B before I go there. The other time that light this is really light travels in a straight line, unless. And then these are the two unlesses. Unless it strikes a reflecting surface, and unless the medium is not uniform and or changes. And what I mean by that is like if light goes from air into water. And so you see an object down in the bottom of the water, right? So if you look at something in the water and you see a coin here, and so your brain assumes light is coming from the coin to your eye. But really, as it goes from the water into the air, we know that the light ray gets bent because it travels at different speeds and different media. This one's called refraction. The top one was called reflection. But we know that because, again, we've learned it. We've taught our brain that. So our brain sees it there, but then we say, but no, wait, it's not really there. It's shifted one way or the other. Okay, just like we see the image in the mirror, but we know that object isn't really there. It's shifted one way or the other. Okay, this can cause a lot of really funny situations. We could do a lot of optical illusions based on the fact of what our brain perceives. Two really good stories before we get going in this unit, because it doesn't seem right for me to not tell you stories. One is a personal experience. When I taught in New York City, I was probably down there, maybe it was the end of my third or fourth year. And this family, whose last kid was graduating from high school, and I had taught, I think, the three of them, decided they were going to take the principal, who was another nun, and I out for supper as a thank you to this really posh, expensive restaurant that I probably wouldn't be able to afford to go in and ask to look at the menu. And it was Italian. And I remember it was like in the basement of this building, and we walk in, and it was like all red and white. The carpet was red, and the tablecloths were red, and the napkins were white, and it was really pretty glamorous. And I remember I understood absolutely nothing on the menu because it was all in Italian. And the principal of the school, the other nun, was Italian, so she's discreetly translating it for me so that I don't end up eating something like shellfish that I would be allergic to and die and embarrass her. Anyway, and of course I'm discreetly looking around, and about 3/4 of the way through the meal, like, so we're sitting at a table here, and I'm watching the people like at tables here. There's like, and it's quite a big restaurant, and there's like at least 4 rows of tables, and I see the sign for the bathroom over here. It's like the little girl sign and the little boy sign. So here we are sitting, and then all of a sudden someone at this table stands up, and at the same time the same identical looking person at this table stands up, and I realize there's a mirror right here, and that this restaurant is not nearly as big as I thought, that the 4 tables deep are really, it's only 2 tables, and that these 2 people, one is the real person and one is the image. And so, of course, I have to say to my principal, who already knows that I'm like a green Canadian, "Oh man, that's a mirror. This restaurant's really tiny." And she's like, "You're just figuring that out now?" Which, of course, I say yes. So then her response is, "Well, thank goodness you didn't get up and go to the bathroom, because had I would have walked over to here, because that's where I thought the bathroom was. But the bathroom was really back here. It was just its image." So our brains can get tricked. Optical illusions. The other good story is I was watching a TV program at one point, and it was in the bathroom of a posh hotel, like a public bathroom. And there was a woman standing here at the sink, and she was like washing her hands, fixing her hair, and like the mirror was back here, okay? And so another woman would come in and stand here and go to look at themselves in the mirror, and nothing would show up. So this one's image was here, and she was doing all this stuff, and this one could see nothing. And so, like, this one kept moving closer and closer and closer, thinking one part of the mirror was faulty. And then there was a point where she was, like, standing directly over the other one's head, and still nothing was showing up. In the end, it was a joke. They had 2 identical twins. This was just a piece of glass. It wasn't a mirror at all. And they had 2 identical twins across from each other behind the piece of glass, with everything set up so it looked like it was a mirror image, just to drive the people who were coming in crazy. I thought, that's what I want to do. Like, that would be the best joke in the world. So the fact that our brain automatically assumes light travels in a straight line can cause some hilarious situations. When it doesn't travel in a straight line, when it either hits a reflecting surface or it changes from one medium to another, or a medium that's not uniform, like that has chicken noodle soup or floating objects in it, then what happens is the beam gets bent. And the result of the beam getting bent means that then an image is formed, right? The image is formed of the original object, okay? Now, when an image is formed, it can be one of 2 types. It can be a real image, or it can be a virtual image. And most of the images that you've seen in most of the mirrors that you've used would be virtual. But there are real images in your life. You're just probably not conscious of them. So we need to take a few minutes to think about what's real and what's virtual. So if we just have a straight, flat mirror, and we have some point here, reflection means an object goes in, a ray goes in, hits the mirror, and comes right back off. Or if it goes in at an angle, I'm going to run out of time.